Welcome to PS5 503 Test of Personality, Study Session 5. Introduction. This lecture addresses personality as a psychological disposition to act in a particular way. The various perspectives to evaluating personality are presented, including the names of some existing personality tests and inventories. Objectives. At the end of this lecture, a student is expected to achieve the following: 1. Define personality and relate its everyday life. 2. Be able to name some personality tests in use in psychology. 3. Understand the various ways personality could be assessed and scores interpreted. Content. Personality is the characteristic patterns of behavior and modes of thinking that determine a person's adjustment to the environment. Although Spanning, 1982, sees personality as an individual's total qualities, Aiken, 1993, and Maddy, 1989, are more restrictive in their conceptualization of personality. They argue that personality tests are instruments for the measurement of emotional, motivational, interpersonal, and attitudinal characteristics as distinguished from abilities. Methods used to assess personality. The methods can generally be classified under three headings: observational method, personality inventories, and projective techniques. A rating scale is a device for recording judgment about a personality trait. It may be expressed in a bipolar form as a pair of opposing traits, like sociable and unsociable. These are made the endpoint on a line that represents a dimension of personality. The line is then divided into segments, and the position of the assessee along the scale is marked off on it. The scale may take 5, 7, or more points. An example of a 7-point continuum scale using the personality attributes earlier mentioned is shown thus. Indicates the candidate's sociability level: sociable 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Unsociable. The rating may also take the Likert 1932 format of 5-point scale ranging from high level of possession of a trait to low level of the trait possession. For example, how would you rate the candidate's emotional control? Very low, below average, average, above average, very high. Does the individual antagonize others? Never, rarely, sometimes, often, always. The assessment of personality using the scaling format is liable to suffer from some errors of assessor's bias. These errors are termed the halo effect, the error of generosity or error of leniency, and error of central tendency. The halo effect is the error of rating a person near the top or bottom in every trait for assessment, just because the rater has been favorably or poorly impressed by excellence or deficiency of the assessee in one trait. The good or bad impression formed on one trait is influencing the ratings on other traits. The generosity error or leniency errors is that made when raters rate acquaintances more favorably than strangers. It is also used to explain errors on the part of the rater, when there is tendency of rating or ratees towards the top end in every trait. The error of central tendency is that of the rater, rating the subject more towards the center of the scale in every trait. Personality inventories. A personality inventory is a questionnaire on which the person reports reactions or feelings in certain situations. These methods of personality assessment thus rely on the individual's self-observation and self-report. Personality inventories are not often called tests as there are no right or wrong answers. The term inventory is considered more adequate as they are paper and pencil questionnaires. A personality inventory may be designed to measure a single dimension of personality such as self-esteem or several personality attributes simultaneously. An example of a self-report inventory is the Symptom Checklist 90 Revised SCL 90 developed by Derogatis 1994. It was designed to screen for psychological problems and symptoms of psychopathology. The items are organized into 9 dimensions of psychopathology, namely somatization, depression, anxiety, hostility, psychoticism, interpersonal sensitivity, phobic anxiety, paranoid ideation, and obsessive-compulsive symptoms. The global indices derived from the checklist are shown to be reliable indicators of the presence and severity of psychopathology. Payne, 1985. The SCL-90R can be used as a battery in the evaluation of change through a course of therapy and in research on the outcome of various treatments. Another popular personality inventory is the Minnesota Multiphasic Personality Inventory (MMPI), which is well described in the classic volumes by Dahlstrom, Welsh, and Dahlstrom 1972 m. 1975. Recently, the MMPI was revised and reconstituted into 2 separate versions, the MMPI-2. The original MMPI was made up of 566 statements about attitudes, emotional reactions, physical and psychological symptoms, and past experiences. The testees are expected to answer true, false, or cannot say. Some of the items are: I have never done anything dangerous for the thrill of it. My mother often made me obey, even when I thought it was unreasonable. At times, my thoughts have raced ahead faster than I could speak them. The responses are scored according to their correspondence to answers given by people with different kinds of psychological problems, which the instrument is designed to measure. The 10 kinds of psychological problems measured using the MMPI were grouped as 10 basic clinical scales, with some items for each subscale. The list of scales measured include HS, hypochondriasis, emphasis on physical complaints; D, depression, unhappy, depressed; HY, hysteria, reaction to stress by denying problems; PD, psychopathic deviance, lack of social conformity, often in trouble with the law; MF, masculinity, femininity, feminine orientation by males, masculine orientation by females; PA, paranoid, suspicious; PT, psychiatheria, worried, anxious. The MMPI was originally designed to identify people with serious personality disorders, but it has presently been widely used in studying normal population. It is therefore used in determining appropriate psychiatric label for people exhibiting behavioral disorders. The test is often used in assess personality characteristics of people whose behavior are not perfectly disordered. The MMPI is interpreted by looking at the total configuration of the profile, not just the separate scales. California Psychological Inventory (CPI). The California Psychological Inventory (CPI) was originally published in 1956 with 480 items. Through the revisions it has undergone in subsequent years, its original length was reduced to 462 in 1987 and more recently to 434 items. The CPI has items that are answered true or false and measures personality dimensions as dominance, sociability, self-acceptance, responsibility, socialization, self-control, achievement via conformance, achievement via independence, empathy, and independence. The CPI uses some of the questions as the MMPI, but it is designed to measure more normal personality traits. The 16 Personality Factor Questionnaire 16PF. The 16 Personality Factor Questionnaire was originally published in 1949 by Cartel and his co-workers Cartel, and Cartel 1993. The 16PF is designed for ages 16 and above, measuring social boldness, dominance, vigilance, emotional stability, and rule consciousness. The 5-factor model FFM. In contemporary psychology, the big 5 factors of 5-factor model FFM of personality are 5 broad domains or dimensions of personality which are used to describe human personality. The Big 5 framework of personality traits from Costa and MC Cream 1992 has emerged as a robust and parsimonious model for understanding the relationship between personality and various academic behaviors. The Big 5 factors are openness, conscientiousness, extraversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. Common acronyms are OCEAN, NEOAC, or KNO. The current version of the test, the revised NEO Personality Inventory (NEOP Hideout, Costa and MC Crew 1992), provides scores on 5 major dimensions or domains of personality and on 30 other traits or facts that identify each domain. The 5 major domains are neuroticism, N, extroversion, E, openness to experience, O, agreeable, A, and conscientiousness, C. Their respective phases are listed thus: 1. Openness to experience. Inventive, curious versus consistent and cautious. Appreciation for art, emotion, adventure, unusual ideas, curiosity, and variety of experience. 2. Conscientiousness. Efficient and organized versus easygoing and careless. A tendency to show self-discipline, act dutifully, competence, order, dutifulness, achievement, self-discipline, deliberation, and aim for achievement, planned rather than spontaneous behavior. 3. Extraversion. Outgoing and energetic versus solitary and reserved. 1. Gregariousness, assertiveness, activity, excitement seeking, positive emotions, energy, positive emotions, urgency, and the tendency to seek stimulation in the company of others. 4. Agreeableness, friendly and compassionate versus cold and unkind. A tendency to be compassionate and cooperative rather than suspicious and antagonistic towards others. 5. Neuroticism, sensitive and nervous versus secure and confident. A tendency to experience unpleasant emotions easily, such as anger, anxiety, depression, or vulnerability. Anxiety, anger, hostility, depression, self-consciousness, impulsiveness, vulnerability. The scales of the NEO PIR was designed as a measure of normal personality traits, but Costa and McCree recommend that the instrument be used in clinical and other applied settings, as well as in research. Edwards Personal Preference Schedule (EPPS). In the Manifest Need System personality theory proposed by Murray and his associates at the Harvard Psychological Clinic, Murray, 1938, some human motives or needs were identified. Thus, personality theory stimulated the development of the Edwards Personal Preference Schedule (EPPS), Edwards, 1959, to assess the strength of such needs. The needs drawn from Murray's list include need for achievement, to do one's best and accomplish difficult tasks, to rival and surpass others. Difference, to conform to what is expected of one, to yield eagerly to other people, to admire and support a superior person. Exhibition, to be the center of attention, to show off, to be seen and heard by others, to make an impression. Introspection, to analyze the motives and feelings of oneself and others. Dominance, to control and influence the behavior of others and to be regarded as a leader. Nurturance, to control and influence the behavior of others and to be regarded as a leader. Abasement, to submit passively to others, to seek and accept blame and criticism. Affiliation, to seek and enjoy cooperation with others, to make friends. Aggression, to forcefully overcome opposition, to fight and prevent injury, to belittle, curse or ridicule others. Autonomy, to be independent and free to act according to impulse, to be free of restraints and obligations. Counteraction, to master or make up for failure by renewed effort, to overcome weakness and maintain pride and self-respect on a high level. Defense, to defend oneself against attack, criticism, blame, to vindicate oneself. Avoidance, to avoid pain, physical injury, illness, and death. Avoidance, to avoid humiliation, to refrain from action for fear of failure. Order, to put things in order, to achieve clearness, arrangement, and organization. Play, to be light-hearted and gay, to laugh and make a joke of everything, to devote one's free time to sports, games, and parties. Rejection, to remain aloof and indifferent to an inferior person, to jilt or snub others. Sentence, to seek and enjoy sensuous impressions and sensations. The EPPS consists of 210 pairs of statements that research has shown to be, on the average, equally desirable. Within each pair, the test taker chooses one statement considered as more characteristic of himself or herself. For instance, an individual taking the test must select either A or B of the following: I like to be successful in things undertaken. I like to form new friendships. Both statements are socially desirable, but one emphasizes achievement and the other affiliation. By the choice made, the individual indicates which of the two motives is more important. Some items require a choice between unfavorable statements such as I feel depressed when I fail at something. I am nervous when talking before a group. The disadvantage of this method is that it reveals just the relative preference for one motive or feeling over another. It does not show the absolute level. Due to the first choice nature of the EPPS, it results in imperceptible scores. That is, the strength of each need is expressed not in absolute terms, but in relation to the strength of the individual's other needs. The test taker is therefore the frame of reference in imperceptive scoring rather than the normative sample. Projective techniques. Personality inventories present specific questions to which the test taker is expected to respond by selecting one of the answers presented as deemed relevant to the individual. By their fixed structure, the freedom of expression of the test taker is limited. However, personality inventories are objective measures as they can easily be scored and evaluated for validity and reliability. A projective test presents an ambiguous stimulus to the test taker, who will be required to respond as he or she wishes. Because the stimulus is ambiguous and the individual is not restricted to any specific form of response, he or she does project his or her personality onto the stimulus. Projective tests therefore allow the individual to put much more of himself or herself into the responses. By so doing, the individual's imagination is tapped. By the individual's projection of him or herself onto the stimulus, the person unknowingly reveals something about him or herself. Iglot techniques. The Rorschach-Iglot is one of the most popular projective techniques. The originator of the test, which bears his name, is the Swiss psychiatrist Hermann Rorschach, 1921 to 1942. However, the literature reports that more than 25 years before the birth of Rorschach, J. Kanner, 1857, observed that individuals frequently report idiosyncratic or unique personal meanings when viewing Iglot stimuli. Such individual differences in responses to Iglot suggested the use of Iglot as a personality test. Pictorial techniques. The thematic apperception test (TAT) is another popular projective test, a type of the pictorial techniques. The TAT was first developed by Henry Murray and his staff at the Harvard Psychological Clinic Murray in the 1930s. Unlike the Iglot techniques, the TAT presents more highly structured stimuli and requires more complex and meaningfully organized verbal responses. Verbal techniques. Although all projective techniques mentioned so far call for verbal responses, the verbal techniques are fully verbal, utilizing only words in both stimulus materials and responses. The verbal techniques may be administered in oral or written form. By their nature, they assume on minimal reading, ability, and familiarity with the language in which the test was developed. Thus, this technique may not be suitable with children or with persons who are illiterate. However, the verbal technique is adequate for group administration. Through the verbal techniques, the test taker is presented with a series of disconnected words to which the individual is expected to respond by giving the first word that comes to mind for each word presented. Some ways of using word association tests include: 1. Presentation of a word, list of words or phrases in random order to respondents, who are requested to state or write the word or phrase that comes into their minds. 2. Similarly, respondents can be asked slogans and what they suggest. 3. Respondents are asked to associate descriptive adjectives with certain people or work settings. Autobiographical memories. The autobiographical memory is a projective technique that calls for the analysis of memories, especially those of early life, in order to understand recurrent or intractable conflict in late life. It has its origin in Freud's psychodynamic psychotherapy. Alfred Adler, one of Freud's original followers, opined that the very first memory specifically forms the basis of understanding the individual's style of life. Other theories acknowledge autobiographical memories as construction or projections rather than as true historical accounts. Performance techniques. The methods mostly employed in performance techniques are drawing and play techniques. Drawing techniques. A common type of the drawing techniques is the Machova Draw a Person test (DAP) Machova, 1949. In the test, the individual is presented a paper and pencil and is told to draw a person. On completion of the first drawing, he or she is asked to draw a person of the opposite sex or of a different gender from that of the first drawn. While the test taker draws, the test administrator notes the sequence in which different parts are drawn, as well as comments made by him or her. Play techniques and toy tests. This technique originated in play therapy with children, but the technique has been adapted for the diagnostic testing of both adults and children. The objects of the test include puppets, dolls representing adults and children of sexes, animals, furniture, bedrooms, kitchen figures, and other household furnishing and miniatures. The examiner simply makes available the collection of toys for free play with children. With adults, the materials are presented with general instructions to carry out some tasks of a highly unstructured nature. These instructions may also be given to children. The examiner observes what items the child chooses and what is done with them, as well as the verbalizations, emotional expressions, and other overt behaviors emanating from there. Play with materials is expected to reveal the child's attitude towards his or her own family. Other tests frequently used. Public employment test. Vocations within the public service often require industrial organizational psychology tests for initial employment and advancement throughout the ranks. Achievement and aptitude tests are usually seen in educational or employment settings respectively, and they attempt to measure either how much you know about a certain topic, that is, your achieved knowledge, such as mathematics or spelling, or how much of a capacity you have, that is, your aptitude, to master material in a particular area, such as mechanical relationships. Occupational tests attempt to match your interest with the interests of persons in known careers. The logic here is that if the things that interest you in life match up with, say, the things that interest most school teachers, then you might make a good school teacher yourself. Attitude test. Attitude tests assess an individual's feelings about an event, person, or object. Attitude scales are used in marketing to determine individual and group preferences for brands or items. Typically, attitude tests use either a Dullstone scale or Likert scale to measure specific items. Neuropsychological tests. Neuropsychological tests attempt to measure deficits in cognitive functioning, that is, your ability to think, speak, reason, etc., that may result from some sort of brain damage, such as a stroke or a brain injury. They are typically used to assess impairments after an injury or illness known to affect neurocognitive functioning, or when used in research to construct neurophysiology abilities across experimental groups. These tests consist of specifically designed tasks used to measure a psychological function known to be linked to a particular brain structure or pathway. Direct observation test. Although most psychological tests are rating scale or free response measures, psychological assessment may also involve the observation of people as they complete activities. This type of assessment is usually conducted with families in a laboratory, home, or with children in a classroom. The purpose may be clinical, such as to establish a pre-intervention baseline of a child's hyperactive or aggressive classroom behaviors, or to observe the nature of a parent-child interaction in order to understand a relational disorder. Direct observation procedures are also used in research. For example, to study the relationship between intrapsychic variables and specific target behaviors, or to explore sequences of behavioral interaction. The Parent-Child Interaction Assessment tool (PCIA) is an example of a direct observation procedure that is used with school-aged children and parents. The parents and children are video recorded playing at a make-believe zoo. The Parent-Child Early Relational Assessment is used to study parents and young children and involves a feeding and a puzzle task. The MacArthur Story Stem Battery (MSSB) is used to elicit narratives from children. The Dyadic Parent-Child Interaction Coding System (2) tracks the extent to which children follow the commands of parents and vice versa, and is well suited to the study of children with oppositional defiant disorders and their parents. End of study session 5. Thanks for listening.